So hello there, this is a Mind Culture podcast. This is our first episode, and today we have Corinne Eckenstein, who is the current director since 4 years of Dschungel Vin and has been in Austria since 1990 and has been active as a choreographer and a regisseur at Festival Wien, as well as Schauspielhaus Wien, as well as her own group Foxfire, and what else? That's a lot. And Jungle Vin before Jungle Vin. So very nice to have you here. And
hello.
How are you doing?
Quite good, as a matter of fact. No, I'm fine. I mean, we had I suppose to say, a rather strenuous time lately, not knowing where to go and how are we moving forward. And I'm very happy that we're slowly moving forward and that we have something to look forward.
Yeah, you're like one of the first institutions that is actually opening in this strenuous time. So
yes.
I think maybe it's the first dance performance that's gonna happen in Vienna.
I guess so. I mean, dance is something that is not even mentioned all the time during Corona, which is very awkward. That we, after all we did already for dancing, that when it comes down to arts, it's again something that's not even mentioned. And this is also a point why we think it's important to show dance, and it's so much about joy and about really being alive.
So Jungle Vin is a place which focuses on children theater. So it is a theater for maybe
young
children.
Audience.
Yes, sorry for using the word children theater. I'm simplifying everything in my mind. But it's a theater for young audience. But it's also in Vienna one of the very unique places to actually see contemporary dance, I would say. Mm-hmm. So if the contemporary dance involves some kind of movement-based practice that is very focusing on skills and high quality dance performance, I have the feeling that Jungle Vin is totally supportive of that, and for this I have to be very thankful for Corinne and having this direction.
Yeah, it was of course, being myself a dancer and a choreographer, it was also always important from the very beginning that dance has its own focus. And I know it's much more difficult to sell dance also in theater for young audience, but I also see gradually the change and that people are much more open and they really enjoy. Also for the older, like for teenagers, for the small kids, it really doesn't matter, because for them language is not so important at that point of being, but still dance is something that we can that I put a really strong focus on it, because it opens up to a broader way of arts that can especially connect with children and young audience.
So you say that the non-verbal communication that is kind of essential to dance is actually helping with reaching out younger audiences.
Yes, and they also have to be taught to look at it, of course. I mean, they see a lot of dance when they look at music videos, as a matter of fact. Actually, it's nothing special about it. And there's always still this kind of notion of what are they talking about? Maybe I don't understand. And to get involved with this kind of very was a strong energy what you get from dance. And this is what we're doing here also. I mean, we really move. I know there's a part of in the dance world where movement is not only about strong movement. There's so many varieties. So I think dance is not just one thing, and it has so many aspects, and it's growing, and people are really trying to find out how to communicate. And this is what it's about. It's about communication in the end. I mean, art is about communication.
Couldn't agree more. Um, okay, so can you tell me a little bit more? Because I I read online about your background and your education in San Francisco and New York, and that you have been a trained and active performer. And is it musical dance? How should we call this?
I don't know. I tried many things because when I was, let's put it that way, I went to a theater school to California first in order to make physical theater. Was really what I wanted to do, physical theater. Actually, I wanted to do even more circus. I thought living in a circus, that whole atmosphere, maybe it's very, like you say, in a way, a sentimental way. I had a lot of ideas as a teenager, what kind of life I want to live as an artist. And it had a lot to do with this kind of living together with a lot of people and sharing arts and living together, and it's one thing, like a family, yeah? So I thought in circus, this is the way, and you go around and traveling the world, and that was what I was looking for. And so I went to this school called the Del Arte School of Comedy and Mime, and I learned all kind of skills there, which I still use. You know, it's more than juggling and everything. I mean, we did so many things with masks, very physical, and it was an international school. And then on my way back, when I actually was done with the school, I wanted to go to New York because there was the other dream I had. I saw as a teenager Fame, this very famous movie about musical theater, and I had this idea that I can fulfill my further dream to live a whole-blooded life as an artist by doing musical theater. And I think it was more this atmosphere of this school and singing and jamming and dancing together and live a strong and joyful life that I was looking for that school. And then it was a little bit misfortunate because this school was only for college, it was for 16 to 18 years old, yeah? Oh. So by that time I was already 21. So really... I was very disappointed but nevertheless, I didn't give up, and so I was looking for another school. Mm-hmm. So I finally found a school where I could audition, and they took me, and so I stayed there for another 2.5 years and learned all about musical theater. So I was singing and dancing, and
I mean, excuse me for this very detailed question, but I'm actually really curious because you've been trained in something called Nat Horn technique. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? Because I know about techniques like Cunningham technique or Delimat technique, mathematics technique.
Yeah, Nat Horn is actually a mathematics. In a way, it's just his school, and he developed like a lot of teachers develop on techniques on other people. So his basic technique was on mathematics. Yeah, so I did all this, you know, and it was good for your mind and for coordination and everything. But I think it was never what I really wanted to do in the end, of course. Yeah, but that was one part, of course, not all. We had so many different teachers, and a lot of them came from Broadway, but we also did like contemporary dance and, you know, everything actually.
Wow. And I mean, I'm still blown away by how many people develops their own technique. Mm. So it's a lot of branding in place, and how this is important to make a career, I think, in teaching actually. And I don't know. What do you think about it? So you say it's like mathematics thing. So it's very, very similar in a way.
Yeah, sure.
When does it? I mean, I don't know. My question would be at what point does it become yours in a way? If for example, I would start teaching Hygin Delimat's technique after, I don't know, having classes in Limon for like ever. What do you think about this branding thing of techniques, or do you have an idea on this? Or
as I never had in my mind for myself to brand a technique, for example. I never even, this thought never occurred to me. As a matter of fact, to start branding something I do. Actually, I never did that in my life. I never branded anything. And for me, it was always like more collecting and getting experience and use them as inspiration, but never branding. Yeah, I also never tried to brand my own work in a way. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think you have to really understand why this is so special from what you do and how you can develop on it. And it's just not one thing. That is something that is you can keep developing on it, and has a in a and has a structure in itself, and that is in a way very connected to your own idea, artistic idea, what you want to express with that. I think it's not just something that you just do and then you go and teach it. Yeah, then I don't think that it survives.
Yeah, I'm always asking myself because as a dancer, that's been a lot of my exploration, because I mean even as close as Impulse Dance, there are a lot of teachers that have their own names on things, and I think Impulse Dance is very big on this actually teacher offering, because they all teach contemporary dance, but they all teach contemporary dance that is called something else. So I'm always like, from a dancer's perspective, I was always thinking like, why is this special? Like, what makes this special? Like, what makes it different than what I learned at school? And it didn't have a name. So for me, this is always, it always surprises me when I see these names, like for example, Nat Horn technique, like a horn technique. I know about Horton technique, but then at the same time, if you, I don't know, if
this was by the fact, yeah, the thing I did, Horton, forever. But I thought that's also the thing, Horton. But I stopped it right away when I came in contact with a contact improvisation.
Yeah, that could be the exact opposite of Horton.
Yeah, and then I realized I don't want to do Horton ever more. I mean, it gave me a lot of strength, and but not a good flow.
I mean, there's some question. I mean, in Horton, from my understanding of Horton, and I don't have a big one, but there is some questionable things in terms of how if your body is going to survive this in the end or not. After many years of doing this, because it's very mathematical in a way. That's like, I mean, mathematics can also be very fluent, but I'm talking about like it's edgy and
exactly,
and body is not so much like
yeah,
that.
so I liked that for a while, to have this very strong structure in my body and to exactly know where everything is in place, and so.
And
then,
how did you, if I can ask you, how did you decide to start making your own work? Because as I understand, you've been performing and then you transitioned. I mean, all I can read in the bio, I'm sure there's a longer
but that's
story.
interesting what you read in the bio also. It's always interesting what do you read on a bio. Also what I put in the bio, or what other people put when they use your bio. Well, actually there was already for quite a while I started like when I was working mostly as an actress, actually, and when people needed something that was choreography or movement in their pieces, I started to do that, and then I got actually hired for that, and then I got more and more interested in do my own work, actually. And it was also another thing was I also, as a performer, I always thought compositionally, which was very annoying to the other directors. So I realized maybe instead of telling them what they could do, I never said what they should do, but I always said, well, how about, could you think of an idea like this? I never wanted to like touch their authority. I was just had these ideas all the time. Yeah,
But it's still very annoying to them.
of course.
Even if you don't wanna, even if you do it in a very respectful way, at least from my experience.
Yeah. I know. So I started to do that's what, when I thought, okay, I don't want to annoy other people with my ideas. Why don't I just do it and try myself and see for myself if this is the way to go? So that's actually how I started.
And there's my question here, because I also am very interested in, practicing choreography, but the transition into making choreography for me, it was like coming into unknown, because let's say I can understand how to compose a piece, I can understand how to put movements together, but there are so many other factors like dramaturgy, like I don't know, contextualization of the whole work, like the impact, the how to say, the content of the work, all the concept writing, all the then there are things like lighting and sound and connecting things together. But where did you get your knowledge? Because for me, like for example, from the stage experience itself, be it how it was, I felt like this is not even close to being in charge, like to the idea of being in charge of this whole thing. And I'm just wondering, like, what were your ways, or what are your ways to make yourself better at doing this part of the thing? I mean, I can tell from my side, like I did a lot of sort of coaching programs. So I had a pleasure to, for example, be in several residencies, artistic residencies, where I had an assigned coach.
Okay.
And also at some point I went to Portugal, where I also been mentored by a very amazing choreographer, and this is still kind of not enough. I mean, I feel that from every place I go, I learn something new.
Sure.
But I'm always like, the more I learn, the less I know about how to even do it. So
Okay.
so I wonder, what is your process as the maker, actually?
I think I started very early. Actually, I started already even before, as a teenager. Yeah, I had already like I had a circus company when I was 13, 14, 15, in that age. And we performed and we wrote our own skits and things, and we taught ourselves things that we presented, and we organized ourselves to work on, to get gigs at festivals and some kind of open air things, and which I think, I don't know, when you're 13, 14, 15, you don't think about how you do it. You just do it. And I think this is the thing. I just did it. And I remember when I started then, I started early, but then I got kicked out of ballet because I didn't, I don't want to tell you. I thought it's a lot of fun, but the discipline was a problem. So the teacher asked my mother, maybe they find something better for me than ballet. So I stopped ballet I started at 5 and stopped at 7. And then
It's very early to stop. It's very early to start, and it's even more early to stop.
So, but then the circus thing came. So anyway, when I started dancing, I was like 15 or 15, around that I started. And I think I took about 4 dance classes, and then I was ready to choreograph. So I called all my friends. Some of them were dancers and some of them not. Also dancers like me, taking classes. And we started to make choreography because I wanted to do something outdoor. And we rehearsed like 5 or 6 times each Saturday, very seriously, like 20 people. And then we went out there. We made it in an open air. We would call it now like a flash mob, what we did. We did that. And that was it. That was the end of the company, but we did one show. But we worked for that one moment, and and then I did that with another, and then I later on I had a street theater group, which I had I wrote scenarios and everything, how this is working, and did street theater, and that was when I was like 17, and then I also performed at the State Theater already as a teenager. So I think it's just like trying things and learning from others. And I always loved to watch. Like I would always go into theater and watch for hours. And maybe this is also, back then it was just curiosity. But then I would sit through a lot of rehearsals from other directors while I was in that theater, because I was allowed to just watch. And I think maybe I learned so much just by watching, but I wasn't there incident that I wanted to learn. I just wanted to see, because I found it so exciting to watch.
Yeah.
And this is still the thing that I like the most about directing and choreography, watching. So when I choreograph or direct or putting on shows, I watch a long time. We improvise, and I watch and watch and watch. I give inputs, but most of the time I watch.
I think I can relate to that.
So this, I think, and then of course I also see how the stage is working, and so I don't know. I think I just took it up by unconsciously in a way. At a very young age.
And do you feel that it changes? Like, because I'm sure it changes, but I don't know. For me, like I always discover different dimensions of what I do. So, for example, I've been working more on the physical aspect of things, and then maybe more on the physical aspect of things, integrating a different kind of movement style that I have to first learn. On the other time, I work more on the conceptual side of things. So I don't know, or the other time I like to work more on the, I don't know, the visual aspect of things. So I'm wondering if you can see in yourself, like over this many years, how your approach changed or didn't change, because it could also be that it didn't change.
Yeah, I think it changed. In terms of, how can I say this? Like in the beginning, I was, of course, when you start, you look for security also in your own work. Like you put a very strong structure. I did, in order to make sure that I'm not going wrong. So that was more in the beginning, and in the first years, I was very concerned that I had a very strong structure in whatever I did. Yeah. Also, you could see it in my work. Yeah. It was, I changed between theater and dance. It was never for me either or. It was always both. Yeah. And so, especially in theater, I had an even more strong structure about what I wanted to do and how I put it on stage. I had also very strong form in it, which came more from the choreographic thinking again. And then I remember a point where I said, "Oh, I'm getting so bored on my very, very, very tight choreographic way the people have to act on stage." And then I started to just like leave that all away, just to see what's happening, if it's working, if I don't use it.
So
Yeah,
it's like from one extreme to the other.
in a way, yeah. I just wanted to get rid of, because I couldn't get rid of a little bit. So I got rid of the whole thing, and I left it in a very open, and I really loved it, because there are so many beautiful things happened that I could never imagine when I'm sitting at home thinking of it. Yeah, and so this was a way. And now, when I now think, then I changed it again, and now I'm more interested in maybe a little bit more back to from the beginning, but not as tight. More in a way that I want to have a very, how do you say, very clear picture on what is happening on stage, and go and not so worried if the next stage is so clear connected to it. It's I don't know, how can I say, I want to have this, it's more like a, how you say, a children's book, like in a Bilderbuch. Yeah, you flip the page.
To change from a scene to a scene.
And not always looking that it's more like flipping a page. Maybe that's not, like this, and see, to find a new way of narration for myself. Not new in itself. I'm not. I don't think I make anything new or anything. I just can go from my impulses and my way to, how do you tell a story in a way? And by story, I don't mean a linear story, explicit, but anything you tell on the stage is for me a story.
Yeah, I think this.
Even if it's totally abstract, it is a story.
Yeah, I think the approach of storytelling is, I mean, you can say that everything is a story, but also you can say that some things are story and some things are more abstract. So I think there are two ways to look at it. And for me, like, even if you go to the difference between abstract and story, I think the moment you can have some kind of story in, even if it's a dance performance, if the story can be made, then there is like significantly more people that this artwork can address, as opposed to if there is just a selection of abstract impressions, which I honestly think it's very common in the world of contemporary dance.
Sure.
And I'm I'm a testament to it in the works that I've been doing, also, especially at the beginning, like only nowadays that I'm trying to also think in this different way, and maybe more directing kind of way. And I think this is really interesting. Another thing I want to ask you, because it's really interesting for me, because I myself turn out to be in a very different positions. So also organizing a lot of things, and also even now interviewing you, but generally being on all these different kind of, recently this craft choreography platform. So then I have to facilitate and organize this as well, and event choose. So how do you find yourself, like, how do you find this transition? Like, does it how does it affect maybe the way you are, maybe the way you feel yourself as an artist? Because I'm sure that it changes the relationship of yourself to the art, or to the art world, or to yourself even. So how do you find yourself in being in a position of being the director of an institution, of a significant institution? How do you combine this still with being you?
That's a very good question. It's like a balance act in a way. It's like like sometimes I don't have as much time to really think of how I'm gonna go further with my approach to art, and how I want to produce, and how I want to create. That time is very little, and sometimes I feel like, oh, this is what I'm really missing. Yeah, from the mindset of my being an artist, and then still I am producing at least 1 or 2 pieces a year, and because I realize that I need a free mind for that, and I need also time, And I thought I can do everything. I can do a lot actually in one day. I managed to do many things at the same, but at the other, but I really see that time just to let your spirit go free. Ooh, there's hardly any of that left, unless I do it in the summer. In the summer, it's better. So I really looked that I can use my holidays, which I don't have in that moment. I mean, I do have some. I need some, but most of that I really prefer that I can rehearse and have my time and not worry about, oh, I have to go to the office and I have to do this and that and make phone calls and organize and 1,000 things. But really, yeah, I can just do one thing. That is hard. Yeah.
The
As an
luxury.
artist. Yeah, that's a luxury. In the meantime, I think producing is a luxury for me.
Producing.
Yeah, producing, making art, yeah. It's in a way that I have this room for myself.
Yeah, it's quite tough to survive from.
I know. I
Producing
don't.
art.
You don't have to tell me. I know it. For 30 years, I did nothing but that. Yeah, but I also realized that there is something that is that I feel that is very privileged. Being an artist, there's something about to not just function all the time, and that you have. Even if you have, yeah, it's hard to survive and everything. We don't have to talk about this, but this is something you choose to do.
Absolutely, I think it's.
And you know it when you start doing it. It's not something that comes by surprise. Oh, I went to school. I went to art school. Why don't
Why is
I
it
get
hard?
Why is it hard? No, it's always you chose that already, in order to keep your free spirit.
I have to just in defense of choosing an art school. I still think that if you're like 18 or less year old, you still don't have a full picture of what it's
But
going
in
to be.
nothing
You're
you-
like fed
Yeah.
a certain picture by your teachers in the past, and I don't think it's entirely your responsibility that you choose this path based on the images that you got.
Yeah.
But
Well, as a
afterwards-
dancer, you know it's that it you have to work. That there's only limited artwork. How do you say the getting jobs and things like that? You know that from the very beginning because you already when you audition for the school, it's already limitation. Yeah, not everybody get into the school,
Absolutely.
and so already that is a privilege. That you and it's not just a privilege, it's a responsibility actually more than that, in a way, and at the same time I think it's total free choice, and I don't think even that even if you get your education as a dancer or whatever, that you have to be a dancer. You can be a great person to do because you have this education, and or even be a banker later on. Because you always, if you keep something of that, what you got, you bring that into the world. Because I do think that artists have a special task also in our humanity. And even now, as we now have this crisis, which hit us so hard, yeah, and hit us in our deepest self-esteem in the end, yeah,
There are
who
many
we are.
people who proclaimed stopping doing art. Actually, like there are many people who said like, okay, this is the moment where I stop doing art. For example, there's a lot of this campaigning. But there
Yeah,
was-
you can think that. You can just put that as a point. If you're doing it or not is a different step. But to say so, yeah, you can think about that. But I think we're coming back, and it's not a romantic thing. It's something we have to see as part of society, stronger. And this is maybe why I feel doing work for young audience, you're a little bit more, if you're not connecting to that audience, you're totally lost.
I think this is the building it from the ground up. Like if
Yeah.
you work with, if you expose children to dance, then they will know that dance exists, or theater, or music, or whatever it is. But if you don't expose them, then you have the whole generation growing up of culturally illiterate people, actually. And then our profession is vanishing in a way. And generally it's some kind of values, I think, of noticing beauty and noticing performance. So not like being sensitive to other people's emotions. I think this is what it is a little bit.
Yeah, I like, for me,
letting yourself to be affected
Yeah.
also.
Exactly. I think that the question of connection is so important, yeah, as an artist, that you really connect, not just with you, then with whomever you're working, but also with your audience, yeah. Because then you can really transcend, yeah. And this was always a very strong that kept me going. I also remember, because you asked why how I make this transition to director and choreographer. There was a time where I totally lost my, why am I doing this? Yeah, I thought, who needs me? Who am I to proclaim being an artist? Who is interested to watch me? What kind of ego thing? Am I worth of anything? And how do I? Why do I think that anybody is interested, that I can give something? So I got into that whole thing about really doubting everything. I mean, I was like, I was actually desperate, because this was like you go down and down and down. In the end, it's like you're nothing.
I think it happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, especially at a certain age, yeah. And this was like in my 20s, in my end 20s, where, you started to working and you're full of energy, and then you start hitting ground, yeah, which means no work, sometimes work. You never know where is it going further, and can I live on that? I'm getting older, and now
at the age of 20, though.
Yeah, in the end of 20.
In the end of 20,
going
but it's
30.
still early in a way to be thinking about getting older.
Maybe as a woman you think earlier, because then the next question came. I mean, it starts this thing about, do I want to have children? Blah blah. Now this is coming too. So you feel, I think this kind of can I be an artist for the rest of my life, or you question that much more as a woman, in a way, especially when it comes down, do I want to have children? Is this going together? I always believed that this goes together. I never had a doubt on that, but I felt like I needed to be at a certain point and then I can have children. So I thought, and I needed to have some kind of stability.
Did it arrive? Did it arrive at time, or did you just started having children?
I didn't start having children. I got two, but I didn't. The first one, it was not planned. No, actually, I got pregnant exactly at that moment when I decided I wanna direct, and I had already a job as an assistant director in a state theater in Germany. And then I realized that I'm pregnant. I found, yes, super. Perfect. I decided for something, and then this is happening. And at the same time, I asked, I make for at the MR7 my first regie. I gave in a concept, and I got that. So I was like, wow, okay. So I was like, by the premiere, I was really already almost shortly before birth. And then, yeah. So in the end, I do believe we can always work as artists. I don't, but in this age, now I can say that 20 years later, because I can look back, of course, but when you're there, you don't look front. You never know where it's going, yeah? And so, what was I? Yeah, so in this kind of, where was I? You have to ask me another question. I'm a little bit lost now.
So
because we made a lot of detours
yeah,
and
it's a lot
rounds,
of detours, but
turning
there's a
around the
question.
life of artists.
There's a question about the life of artists that I want to ask you, like, because you are in charge of an institution, so how to frame it? So, because what I experience as someone who wants to create art in Vienna is that the how to say decision-making process is very centralized in Austria in general. So there's always this thing like where you can get approval of the city first, and then you have an approval of the land, which is the next. I don't know how to translate it in English, honestly. And then you have an approval of the Bundesministerium at that point is called. So there are these 3 steps, but actually it all depends on this one step. But there is also the institution of what I thought before, a production house, but what it actually is in Vienna is a co-production house. What it means, it co-produces, it doesn't produce, which means that it doesn't have the authority in a way to choose which artists to support on the production stage. So from what I understand is the artist can be co-produced by a co-production house once they have the funding. And this theoretically places the responsibility of obtaining, like, of deciding between the 2 parties, so the co-production house and the city. But in fact, in order for the co-production house to be interested in even working with the artist, because the co-production house also has their own cost, first the artist needs to get the yes from the city of Vienna, which places the city of Vienna as the only one deciding organ for the funding in Vienna, or generally in Austria, because it's the same for example, the city of Linz or whatever city there is. What do you think about it? Do you think that
it's very monopolized? Yes, I think it's difficult because it's like in the end it's like 3 people deciding on I don't know how many 100 people, and indirectly they also decide my program.
Absolutely, your program
which is not like my program, but the program of the house, which in a way, yes, of course we talk to each other, but in the end, my part, I cannot make a decision on that. Like I'm not influencing the decision on what the city is supporting. I can put my thoughts down. Like every house is asked to talk with the curators, and we all, this is everywhere, Brut, everywhere, have a talk with them. And when they present us the productions that are meant for the house from the artist side, then you can say, well, this is what I think about this and this and this, and it's up to them, of course, in the end to decide. So I'm sometimes it is like making a program. You think on many different things, and I also think on the artists and how to support artists in order for them to develop and to grow. This is what I really try to do here, which I have not that big of competence than you would think. Maybe people think that I have. I try my best because I have a big interest that things are blooming and that things are developing, and I think it does strongly since I'm here. But I still have to accept decisions that are not made, which I would maybe make differently, or if I would have more influence on how do you say, like be it more transparent altogether. I understand it's transparent has 2 sides. You cannot always say everything. You cannot always put everything on the table, and it doesn't always help because it needs maturity in order to deal with transparency. Um, and there's also always also this kind of and there's always we also think on limitations. There's limitation of money, there's limitation of time, there's limitation of space. And to get that in a good balance is really hard task without trying to how do you say put your preference. You always have your preference also.
Absolutely.
And as an artistic director, this is what you also take responsibility for.
What you're supposed to do.
Yeah. And because otherwise I would just be a janitor. Yeah. Cleaning up behind and opening the doors.
Or a manager in
or
a way.
A manager. Yeah, and I think it's something that is also about communication, yeah, and you're paid basically also for that knowledge and that experience I bring after all these years and doing this, what I'm doing, in order to do the best, which is not always the best for everyone, and this is also to accept that it's always like that, yeah, like because of all these limitations I was talking before, and when I say I have a focus on dance, then that's already another direction, which is for the dancers great, but the people who prefer to do theater with language feel like, why? I mean, it's not like that. I think we're in a good balance, but you could think of, as soon you push on one edge, the other is left out. So you cannot say then we need like so much more theaters and everything. And,
I have the feeling that there is, I don't know. You can always argue that there should be more money and there should be more money for arts. And I agree with that. And I also... I think there should be like all the money possible for arts. However, I also feel that there is some kind of in the mechanism of distribution of the money, like where it's like there's a lot of resources go to very big players that and then there are some resources that don't go at all to like the small players. So it's the kind of how to say. It's very, very far from democratic distribution. It's like it's only the top that takes it, and then there is maybe a few that take a little bit, and then there is nothing, which is understandable. However, what I find a little bit strange is that the curators of Vienna, they do not only, because they're different, like they're different genres within performing arts. So there is like the circus, there is children's theater, there is dance, there is not dance performance, then there is theater and
performance,
they put
musical
theater, yes, and how on earth like a person can have an overview of all of these arts? Like I am completely ignorant about, I mean, not completely, but I would consider myself completely ignorant on, for example, the field of theater. So like I can go and watch and I can also know some things, but I will never be able to tell the difference between like that art and that art, because I don't have enough knowledge. I can maybe say and have an opinion in the field of dance because I specialized for many, many years in this field. And then I can say, oh, I have some expertise. So for example, a person like you who is in charge of institution has an expertise in the field. That's why you're here. However, the decisions is made by people who decide on everything and who have all the knowledge. And I don't know, my question would be, do you maybe know the historical background of this and why did it happen to be like this? Why at some point the production house lost the ability to decide on who they I don't know, fund? Like
the production houses never had the ability to, never, actually less before. So there used to be, for exactly what you say, for the theater for a young audience, it would be called Beirat, like a curator, which was like 6 or 7 people. Then there was dance, then there was theater, then there was music theater. So you applied either or to that. Like when I started in the 90s, that's how it is, how it was. And as it got more and more interdisciplinary, and that was the also the thing to support, work more interdisciplinary. Of course, music theater is always music theater, and always is at the same time interdisciplinary. And so they decided to like open up. There's no a genre anymore. There's no genre, and we have only 3 people who go around, and they're paid full time, because before it was just it was not paid, just Sitzungsgeld, just more for the time being. For the session itself, they got money. So they have these different Beiräte, and now they have curators, and they're in charge for everything. So that changed, and that was like in 2003 or 4, something like that. In that time, they changed that because they think it's not. It was not anymore for the time right. So and the houses got more precise. So this house is for performance, this house is for dance, this house is for young audience, this house is for theater. And before, everything was much more mixed.
Which is the house for dance? Can you tell me?
No, your Tanzquartier.
Okay.
And then they have, of course, on the others, they have Brut in a certain way. And so of course, it's interdisciplinary. There's no real dance on. That's supposed to be Tanzquartier. So depending on who is the director, it's a little bit more, it's more dancey or less dancey, more performative, less performative. But and theater is, I don't know, now in TAC or in Werk X. So and theater for young audience, that's when they also started. Dschungel Wien, 2004. They said, so here is theater for young. Like before, I was basically performing in every. I mean, I think there's. I made a production here, there, in almost every place in the city. Yeah. So the genres, that is the interesting. We don't have any more genres, but we have now houses of genre. And before we had genres for the subvention, for the curators, and we had no genre basically in the houses. So Brut, for example, was the place where everything happened, in that Künstlerhaus, when it used to be,
Künstlerhaus.
So the name was Die Theater, like the plural of theater, Die Theater. And there was dance, there was performance, there was theater, there was for young audience, it was everything. So, and then that changed. So it was like if you turn it in the other, totally different. So now people know when they want to go to see performance, they go to the Brut, or now they go more to book. And when they want to see dance, they go more to Tanzquartier. When they go see theater, they go there. Yeah. And theater for young audience is here, which was great, I must say.
Absolutely.
For us to have a house only for theater for young audience was really perfect. I do think that also helps, because working in different theaters and starting all over again, find the audience was very strenuous. That was like, for me, coming to Dschungel Wien with my company was like, oh, I only have to be here. Okay, there are people who are supporting me, actually. There are people, there is an office who takes care of my audience. And basically, I can just be here an artist. I don't have to be a manager. I don't have to be trying to find schools who come and see my shows. I mean, for me, it was when I came here, I was like, I thought it's paradise, yeah? in a way. So I'm very grateful to that
So
this is happening.
so on one side we have, I don't know, 7 bairats that have, I don't know, a body of 7 people each,
Mm.
and they decide who get funding. On the other side, we have just 3 people getting paid to do it full time.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but in my head, when I think of some kind of fairness and I don't know, decision making that that is unbiased, basically. And I think the word here is, I think, unbiased. So when I think of the lack of bias, so personal interests, so for example,
Yeah. Okay.
then I think it's much easier to motivate 3 people with any kind of incentive than to motivate 7 people, even if they are not getting paid. I think being paid for the job really helps to be less biased, then I agree. But then there are 2 paradigms here that I think the having only 3 people, that first of all they won't be able to know everything. That's the obvious thing. And then the second thing is that I'm not saying that anyone is convincing anyone, but I think it's very possible, much more possible within 3 people than within 7 people.
Sure. I mean, you have a broader picture with 7 people than with 3 people, because 3 is always.
I mean, 7, it's like
Yeah.
49, let's
Yeah.
say, in a way.
And yeah, so but in a way, 3 is always a difficult. I mean, also, working with 3, that means it's always 2 and 1 and 1 and 2, and how to come. And I don't know how they make their rules inside. Like, I think they have certain aspects. They have more interest. Some more on performance, some more on theater for young audience, or not, or theater, or I don't know this exactly. And as it changes, of course, when the curator's changing, then you have more
Of course.
people who have more knowledge on dance, and some have no knowledge on dance. I'm sure it's not perfect. I mean, it's not ideal. As maybe ideal would be 5.
Maybe, or maybe
Of more ideal, but then it means paying 5 people,
Yeah.
and not 3 people. So that
but
this is
there is enough funding for 5 people in Vienna.
Yes,
I'm sure about this.
I would say so too. I mean, but this is I'm not the
It's like-
politicians, yeah.
It's like,
So-
look at how big everything is.
I
here.
mean, we are quite a big scene, and I think maybe 5 would give us a much broader look at things, and also would put less pressure also on the curators.
I think also they must be under a huge amount of pressure.
Yeah, and so because they have so much responsibility, because actually they are like the intendanten of the scene, if you count it down.
Yeah, they
That
just
is in
make every decision.
Every decision, how this whole thing. I mean, like I said, the houses itself, they have like for us, we have a very small budget, actually no budget for co-producing.
Okay.
We have to actually acquire it from somewhere else. We have to make, we have to rent out things. We have to rent out the spaces, and then we make some money. And then we can give it to the artists. So, because sometimes I heard, like, why do we have to pay for the spaces here? And I said, there's 2 things. First of all, how am I going to deal this if I give it for free? Who is going to, it's like first come, first serves, or is it by throwing the, what do you say, the Würfel, or, but in the end, it's great when we have money, we can give money. But again, not to everyone. Some will take. So it's always like that. There is no justness. If you go like when you cut a piece of cake, yeah, and every piece is exactly the same. This is not the way it works. Yeah, it never will
Absolutely.
work. And life is not like that in all. But we can do the best to be fair.
I think so.
I think between having justice and fairness is a big difference. If we're looking for justness,
I-
we're never going to get to any point. And we're not going to make better art, or we're not going to make happier people or anything. But if we can look for fairness, and even then you can go wrong.
But I think it's just like if there is some kind of no, if the opportunities are more or less equal to everyone, let's say the starting point. Let's say there is, I mean, for example, Netherlands, because I know you work a lot with Netherlands, so there are this
Belgium,
also
Netherlands, yes. But more Belgium.
there's this thing where there is a certain platform for show. Hello. There is a certain platform for. Okay, there is a certain platform for showing work as a beginner artist, and then there's like steps on the ladder that you have to climb, and I kind of I don't know. Maybe I don't understand something, but I don't see the same thing in Vienna. For example, I'm
trying to do it here with this possibility of tryout, which actually works quite well. It works actually really well. So we also like have this young artists who get involved with the possibility to really produce, and also are supported by because you ask how am I going to learn how to produce? Yeah, here you get an idea. We support, so you have to be self-responsible for your art and what you're doing, and also you're responsible to communicate. This is a big thing, communication. Okay. And then get the idea, okay, I'm responsible for that. And then, okay, if I need more support, I go and ask. Yeah. And then I learn, okay, this is how it works. So you get a little bit like step-by-step thing when we produce this one production a year at least, with this young artist, which we did now this is the fourth time actually. And then what we're trying to do is that this artist who had the possibility to do this show, to get them involved either with other artists here in the house, with other companies, or maybe give them a second chance to do another show, like give them a job, a Auftrag, a task, and which means, okay, if we see that they're really they're having this kind of eagerness that they want to go on, and it's but they're still not ready, that they put in a paper and ask for money and all that whole thing. Not everybody is so fit on that, but they're great artists. So we can see that, and then so now we try to do that now.
I think it's really important that, I mean, I think this is the best approach possible, because if you're like a production house or co-production house, in this case, director, I think you have big influence on these young artists that are, I don't know, at the beginning, and then like, I don't know, I've been writing applications since, I don't know, 9 years already. So and I have to tell you that I'm writing, I don't know, maybe 50 per year or something, or more.
Wow.
But
you must be really good.
Or not. It depends. But by the number that I have some sort of first of all, I have some sort of success, but I mean it's still like 5% success rate. And then I have some sort of understanding of how to write, but I mean, like it's my least favorite always been my least favorite activity because I mean I choose my profession. For example, I choose dance because I don't want to speak.
But then you have to write.
But then I have to write. So it's nonsense. Like I have never understood why.
I think the point is this: they never told us.
They never
told us. Like, if that thing, but you know, by now people know. But I think when I started to this kind of freelance work, I remember the pain I remember so much the pain of writing those concepts and feeling not able to do, not having the Fähigkeit, the capacity for it. And maybe it's the mindset that we have. Because but I'm a dancer, I'm not supposed to, yeah. But then there was this point, that shifting point, where I realized writing a concept means self-empowerment. And I use it. I mean, I still have to write concepts. You think I'm a director now and I can just sit here and go like, blah, 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 blah. I'm writing many concepts in order, because I have to apply, and I have to, if I want to make a work with Belgium, I have to apply, and I have to have, I wrote more concepts since I'm here than before as a freelance artist, yeah? So, which is also still painful, but still. But when I do write, when I really try to sit down and I think I'm in charge. This is really what and I can do it, yeah. I think that's why it's a change in the mindset. And when I started realizing that I'm not how do you say, Opfer? A victim.
Yeah.
But that it actually pushes me forward, that it gives me strength, and it gives me independency.
I think this goes to all the dancers that are still reluctant to even trying writing. Start writing as early as you can, because
it's really something. It's something that is, and it is painful. You have to accept the painfulness on that.
The suffering.
Yeah. But if you keep with the pain and not go with the feeling that you actually win independency, and putting words into context is something that is very important to be an independent artist and to be a mature, and that comes where your maturity comes. And then you take charge of yourself and your art and on what you really want to do. And this is sort of the tipping point on that. So stop being what has this self, how do you say when you suffer for yourself, selbstmitleidig, you
self-victimizing.
yes, this kind of, and go like, oh, I feel so bad for myself that I have to do. I say, fuck that, get over it. Yeah?
Nowadays there are many
you have to fight for that. I mean, I fought many years, and I still have this feeling, yeah. But I do know what it means. Why am I doing it? So get over it.
I feel that there are, like, nowadays there are even more there are even more things that a dancer has to do, like
it's amazing.
Like I don't know, digital media, promotion.
It's totally crazy.
Yeah, like writing, of course, applying, of course, but also just promoting and branding yourself, because branding yourself is so important nowadays for whatever reason.
Yeah, it is.
American
the thing is much higher from the point where I started, I must say, yes. But what can I say? Yeah, that's our neoliberal world. They want that. We are just like something that you can sell or not sell. So it is about how to sell yourself. And it has changed into something different. And it also is about, I want to be paid for what I'm doing. So you have to grow into that.
So you have to accept the market you're in a way.
In a way. You're part of a market. We created that market also.
I mean, I was born into that market.
You were, yeah. I mean, somehow this market created, but this is kind of what I'm saying. It's this kind of neoliberal. And what I do see is that it doesn't, you have to fight against this, that it takes away your free spirit. This is really important, yeah? I mean, me being maybe 20 years older than you, see in artists now that they're really because they have so many things that they have to. I have to be this, I have to be that, just like you said, and even all this kind of Excel Dateien
Oh yeah.
and all these things, and
Steuer.
everything comes more and more and more and more. You have to really develop. I mean, wow. You cannot just be an artist anymore. You have to be an Unternehmer. How do you say? Yeah,
Freelancer.
yeah, but more like a firma. You have
A company.
yeah, a company. You have that is coming from this market thing, and you have to sell your product, and that's when this thing comes in. Okay, this is my worth. So yeah, wow, it is really hard. I see. I mean, I know myself. Also, with a house like this, it's not just you make the nice theater for a young audience. You have to always, what is the market? How do we get that? We have so many things, yeah, that we're up to that. And I don't know. That's why I said in the beginning, being in the rehearsal space is the place where I feel all like, oh, what a privilege, yeah. I can just be here and be myself, and keep everything outside. Yeah, it's hard to keep that balance, that it doesn't, that one part takes not over to the other. Yeah.
Wow.
And now for me, leading a house at the same time, I can really say it is even though I have a lot of support by people working for me, but it is also much bigger, of course. Yeah. But it takes a lot of time of, yeah, being an artist at the same time is really hard.
I find it always from my I went to teach one workshop at the university recently. I mean, before the pandemic, of course, and about like first steps into career for students, and I saw that what you get at the university is some kind of mindset of resolving and arguing about artistic things.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, this is really important for, like, I don't know, creating your identity, but actually it becomes so much less important once you have to survive and
You
be
need
a
a lot
part
of
of this
skills.
other things and
Yeah, you have to have marketing skills, you have to be selling skills. Wow, it is a lot of things. Yeah, you really have to know. You have to know all the tools on your computer in order to do in very fast time. Well, we need a video, bam, bam, bam. It has to be looks like this and this, and you cannot afford anymore to pay someone to do it for you. So it's better you do it yourself. Yeah, so yeah. It is amazing actually. And especially being a freelance artist, of course. Not
What do you think? I don't know if you have you have some more time. It's already 15:20. Do you have some more?
yeah, a little. I have.
So what do you think about generally the structure of being a freelancer? Because okay, it's not something that I would like. If I had a choice, I would not be a freelancer. I mean, I appreciate
What would be the other choice?
the freedom. Yeah, that's the thing. Because
To
I
go
appreciate.
audition and be an accompany dancer.
I like to create things. Yeah, I like to be come up with ideas. I like to make new ideas happen. So probably being in a company won't allow me that unless I've been in a position like yours or whatever. But what I think is that being a freelancer in the art field, like let's say you have a gig or some kind of project, and then it lasts a month, and then you have another one, and it lasts another month, and maybe you have few shows. But all in all, you have to manage the time like crazy, and still there's gonna be this big gaps where you don't get paid at all, and there is no like social system like in France or Belgium which gonna help you fill these gaps. So I find this always challenging. Like, okay, if you say that artists have any kind of value, then why there is still no system for that to address
Because
this problem?
this is what we see right now, the way we treat them. The last thing on the agenda. and people don't understand what it means to be an artist. They think like it's like a hobby. Most of the people, they think like, okay, I think that the idea of an artist is so complex. What it is, so we have these like famous artists who get a lot of money, and people see them and they buy their CDs, their movies, and they think they're just part of an industry that serves them to listen music, to see nice movies, things like that. And then there's these artists like us who are more in this experimental, contemporary work, and who are not famous, who are not earning a lot of money, and they think they pay for our hobbies.
I think it's really important, like, because you say experimental, I think any kind of, let's call it popular art, is actually always inspired by the experimental art.
The most people don't understand that. They don't get they don't see that relationship, that one links to each other, that it is not something that is separate. So I think what is important, this is what I say with self-esteem. Now, this is this point. We are the creator. We are the people who give you this feeling of listening to music, all these things. It's not only these people there is so many people behind and over there, and not everything you have to know in order to respect other people's work, and that it has to be supported, in order that things are happening at all, that things are moving. So this is a system, I don't know. I think when we have a government who are not interested in what we're doing, because their mindset is totally somewhere else, as we can see. Now that some artists and directors and people started to go like, really moving like, what about us? What about us? Mm-hmm. And then they said, well, Wertschöpfung, I don't know this word, this is an interesting word, Wertschöpfung, value creation, Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Value creation is 9 milliarden euro just coming through the arts, not from the arts, through the arts, which is more than in agriculture. That gives you a different perspective, that we are not just, maybe we are just a tiny wheel in the whole system. We don't have to be the famous in the front but we are all linked together to each other. So each part of this is important, that the whole thing is working. And now we're seeing that when this part is not being fueled, it's falling apart. A lot of people who are just linked to us have no jobs anymore. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this is an interesting fact. And I think knowing this as an artist is not about like, it's not a question of ego. It means that we have to just not question that if we are any kind of, just because we're not seen or not valued enough or whatever. The value comes from yourself.
What would it take in Austria, and who would it take to establish the status of an artist, like we, for example, have in other countries that I mentioned before? What do you think? What would be the steps? Like, if there was something we could do, because now we have a big crisis.
We have a chance now. I think we have to think of really working, which some people already started, really work, not so much just give us money, but let's work on the system. Not about, of course, we need now, maybe not me, because I have a job, but all the people who are freelancers, they need now money in order to survive, to get paid their rent, and So, but to really ask for something that is nachhaltig, that stays afterward, that really can change that whole system. That is, okay, you get something, you get some, but you have to do that for this. But to really create a new system in order that we are not getting always in this kind of Bittsteller. Are you asking for this kind of hold, please give me so I can make my art. And then, art, then you have to always say, but art is important for blah, blah, blah. I don't want to say that all the time. I do say that all the time because I still in the need as a director to understand how important art is for the children, for example. They don't understand that either. Why? It's like as if we're making some lustige, funny shows, yeah. But it's more than that. It's. I don't have to tell you what art is for, but I think this is what is now maybe even a chance.
Who would it take and what steps? Who
Yeah,
can ask? Because I cannot
anybody.
ask.
You can start. You can start.
Because I know that there's been 2 demonstrations already, and they've been like I think related more to the situation of Corona and how we have a problem. But I would like to see a demonstration that is addressing the lack of the status of an artist. Because
yeah, I think both of them are.
Okay.
Both of them, especially that new one, which I'm supporting strongly, is the one where the silent walking. Because my idea was in the beginning when I heard about demonstrations that let's not go as a group, let's stand up every day at a certain time, not clapping and making music on the balcony, but really stand into the street for 10-15 minutes still all over the city, wherever you are at that moment, at that time. And then we have this, and this goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then we see all the artists standing somewhere. And then whoever is an artist or is, and then we have this image more to see something. That's a demonstration. And the next thing, I think we also now the group of Pact, these are the houses platform. We're also asking for things. We have also wrote. Now people are writing papers.
And is this on your list to have a artist status? Like, is this
Yes.
one of your?
Yeah, at least to have give artists like a Grundeinkommen. This starting out with this, and I think it's also now we have to really push on that if we really want it. And this is the next trend. Do we really want it?
I really want it.
Then yeah, and as soon people want it really hard, then and really want to push that, then it's really interesting. I thought with this this silent walk, one person started, and it's now 2,000 person, and I'm also an administrator of that group, so I have all on Facebook, and I go like, who is this? Okay, and I put them in the group. Okay, next. It's so many people who are asking to be in that group. It's amazing, yeah. I find it great, and I want to see what's happening out of that, yeah. And I think already it's a little victory what happened. Now that we can even meet together again as artists in the rehearsals. I mean, we are starting actually from somewhere that we never thought that we have to ask for.
Yes, but the restaurants are open.
Yes, I know, but we are already there. We pushed it already to that point. I said, and dance was never mentioned. I talked to Rio today. I said, listen, we have to do something about dance. There's never ever any place I heard this word dance. It's called about the Theaterschaffende Künstler.
Darstellende Kunst.
Yeah, we are also darstellende Kunst, of course, but dance in itself, yeah, as a dancing in 2-meter distance. Yes, of course, we can make this
will
kind
be
of
an interesting show, actually.
Oh,
but this is the problem, because
yeah, we can have that, but who cares? I mean, I don't want to be told what I can do or not do, and we have to find ways to keep all that safety and everything, of course. But on the other hand, how can I be really doing my job as a dancer and choreographer if I cannot touch another dancer? Because we can make new shows where where no touching and no, yeah, sure we can all do that, but already it's a possibility to have, and it is also responsibility. It's both.
Yeah, but it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, if people work in a restaurant, they touch the same utensils, and then it's like
I
they
know.
touch themselves.
We have
like,
to live with the idea that we can get infected.
Yeah.
But yeah, but this is a different story. Yeah,
But
we
it would
don't.
be really
We should
interesting.
not go into that because that's like a whoa.
Corona,
we can,
I don't wanna talk about
No,
Corona.
let's not talk about Corona. Let's
But-
keep with
but
the possibility to start thinking more also together as the institution and the artists together. What kind of creative world we want to have, not world, but working situation
System.
which serves all of us. I mean,
Yeah, because I think there's something to address.
I know what an artist needs because I've been an artist and I'm still am for 30 years, and but even being a director of this theater, I'm sometimes like bound. I cannot what I want. I can do as much as I can, but there's also limitations, and some of them they're there because, like I talked about in the beginning about the limitations, but some of them they're not. They wouldn't be needed. Yeah, if we are not under such a marketing. We are under an incredible marketing pressure.
I mean that we have to market ourselves. This is what you mean.
Yeah, all the time. This is also.
Yeah, like lobby the case generally to the politicians. Like this is. But Austria has at least, from what I understand, it's a huge history of art and generally the appreciation of beauty and aesthetics and all this imperialism.
You think, yeah?
It's supposed to be a common sense that something like appreciation for the art exists, and it does, as comparing to other places. But still, if you look at Belgium or France again, as I said, then there's something to be learned, because this, I don't know, this maybe it's about protesting.
It's about, yeah. I think it now it's the time to really use.
I mean, if there was
and the interesting thing is,
yeah,
it's never been that strong to listen to the artist than now. They listen now more to the artist than to the institutions, which is interesting.
You mean the politicians?
And it's not about changing the institutions, it's now changing about the system. And then that changes already a total. I mean, if we can have another way of how we can be supported as artists and be also artists.
I mean, if there was, all these problems that I mentioned before, if let's say a centralization of choice, for example, but even if there was some situation in which you are granted a certain kind of income, there wouldn't be a problem, because okay, so what that you don't get a support? You wait until you get one. But in the case now, it becomes a big thing because there is no other perspective for you. Once you don't have a support, or you don't have a job, or you're out of the loop, you literally
you lose.
on.
I know it's like you it's very hard, and I think it's always been that way, I must say, but I do think in certain things it's harder now than when I was younger.
I
don't want to make it into a nostalgic thing, really not, yeah. But and I suffered with having not jobs a lot, yeah, and not knowing if it goes on and everything. It had also this. In many things, I was waiting more in a way, yeah. But I didn't feel so. like, okay, either or, pushed. I cannot say. It's. I mean, it was it was also a little bit different altogether. I mean, the 90s. I mean, everybody in the 90s. Come on, this was maybe the time where everything was a little bit. Maybe it was also boring. I don't know, because everything was so nice and neat and a little bit lighter, and I don't know. It was as if there was a breath, and then it got like this whole twist started to get. So every time is different. So it's hard to say.
I think every time is different, but I think in general, if you could just compare like the possibilities that we have now with the possibilities, like, I mean, there there's so many factors that contribute to this, but in general, I think it's harder because I've been taught things that have been actual 20 years ago because I went to the university where certain knowledge has been given to me as it's continuously given to other people, and this is the knowledge that was real 20 years ago, and now as soon as I started applying this knowledge, I realized it has no place in reality.
You mean it's out of time already?
Completely out of time.
Okay.
Like, but even the dance knowledge, even simple dance steps, completely out of time.
Really?
Like, no one is
Okay.
interested in those steps. So, yeah, I just think that nowadays you need so much specialization and so much knowledge about. I know
You have
about
more
everything.
tasks. I do think you have more tasks.
Yeah, and you need to be proficient on all of
Yeah,
them.
that's true. That's definitely true. I agree with you, and that's why you actually need more time.
Which you have less because
Which you
everything
have-
goes faster.
Exactly. Yeah, you need to work at least 10 hours in order to make it.
Yeah, at least, yes.
Yeah.
10
and
hours.
and to stay in shape.
But 10 hours productively.
Yeah, and then stay in shape at the same time. Don't forget your workout. Yeah. So
Oh, yeah. But the,
no, I'm kidding. But it's true. Yeah. Especially as a dancer. Yeah. There's always the thing. Yeah. Well, I think we don't. It's good talking about it, and
because there is
we have to just see. I think we have to talk more about this. How we want to. What are the needs in order to really be productive on all levels? We have to accept that it is the way. I don't see a problem in that. Okay.
I think this could generate so many jobs because as soon as you have resources to give away for the things that you can outsource, because the problem is now because you have no I can't only talk from my experience. Because I have no resources, I have to do everything myself. I have to be good at everything.
Yeah,
But
look at
if
what you have. You have two mics, you have a camera, you have a computer, you have two lights. I mean, this is, this is also already resources. And but you managed to get that. This is also already amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the thing is that if I could outsource this, then I would outsource this. If I could have Marcin standing here right now doing all the technical stuff, I will be happily paying him. The problem is I won't be getting those resources. And I think if you had a universal income of sorts, then this could cover at least some of the
Yeah,
expenses.
I agree totally with you.
And this could
also
give
we can
work
give
to others.
Yeah, and we get a level to the. We can concentrate on what we're really good at. And we can also expand, of course. I do think we have to expand always. Also, when we talked about this concept writing and everything, this is, I think, is not the thing. But if you have to be already and it's good that we know something about microphones, the technique. As I mean, I learned also everything because I was also, out of curiosity, like I told you. I wanted to see how these things are working in a time where, of course, I was much younger and I had the chance to just do it. Yeah. But I agree with you. It would the question of resource and how to get other people involved and pay them, and it's just a natural thing. It's not about counting how much and how less, and can you do this for me and I do this for you.
The perfect
We can
example
be
for
much more
this,
professional.
the perfect example for this in my case would be like, just to have a parallel for normal people who don't do arts, is what you do with so-called Steuerberater, which is a tax advisor. So the majority of people in Austria hire a tax advisor because they don't
No, how to-
wanna
no.
spend their life, and they don't wanna suffer so much in order to understand all this bullshit language that is built around those formulas. However, if you don't have enough resources, you have to do it yourself, and that's a lot
the
of
tax
suffering.
you have to do also yourself.
Yeah. So that's an example, and there's an activity like this, and there's you could outsource this activity, or you could outsource generally promotion activity. There are so many people that are fascinated about promoting, are fascinated about arts. They're fascinated about promoting arts. Even if they could even only get paid for this, they would happily do this. I mean, I know my sister. I'm paying a little bit my sister, but of course it's not a huge amount. But I'm and she's very happy to do this digital media work. So
Of course.
I mean, there's so many ways this could. I don't know. It's so logical to me. I can't. even if I don't agree as much for like getting money for doing nothing, but it's not getting money for doing nothing. It's actually providing a real value to the society, I think. Art, because without cutting edge art, at the extreme, I don't know, the extreme borderline art, there won't be the mainstream art, which you all enjoy.
Yes, I
think.
know. But you have a lot of energy for that. So I'm sure you will succeed on that if you keep fighting, I think.
Yeah.
And find other people and see how we really can change that system, and that art is not just looked as something to have or have not. I still want to say that I do feel I always say that I do feel privileged to be an artist in this world,
Absolutely.
and to meet people who share, like you, share same interest, and I can exchange myself on a level that I cannot always be with everyone, and I enjoy that a lot. Also, as a director, to meet a lot of people, and that's also part of this life I was always looking for and fighting for and keep dreaming for, and that we don't forget that. Having always this kind of thing that we're not getting totally sucked up by this, that also sometimes to step out of it and say, okay, but what is there also? And from that I just want to say, from that you also get power, that you can see that, because that gives you this kind of what I'm talking about, self-esteem.
All right, so this is wonderful. I will be finishing this conversation. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I feel we could talk even more. Thank you so much, Corinne, for your time, and hopefully see you next time.
Yes, you will.